Today I was looking at some old artwork from when I was a lot younger, and I was reflecting a bit on myself, and I grew an appreciation for how my art has grown and even improved over time. Um, One of these days, I'll probably make a video showing off my old artwork, just, for comparison, but I might save that for when I reach a milestone like 1,000 or maybe even 5,000 subscribers. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Ought to be a hoot. There'll probably be some laughs too, because I'm talking old too, like really old stuff from like when I was a kid. But anyway, today I am drawing line art of a really, really thick sketchbook that I bought just for the artist diary. Yeah, artist. Um, for those in the know, I love dragons and enjoy drawing them almost as much as I enjoy drawing fluffy, cute things. Um, the music being played are tunes that I found on the Free Music Archive. And this is a selection of songs that were composed by, I hope I pronounced this right, Lache Swing. I think it's supposed to be French. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's from a demo track that they worked on back in 2008, and I guess they submitted it to the freemusicarchive.org. And according to the license agreement for each of their songs, I don't necessarily have to do anything special. It's kind of like Creative Commons type of thing. Anywho, I just wanted to kind of dip my toe into the adding background music to see whether or not I get any sort of copyright strike, despite the copyright-free licensing that's on this particular track, along with a few others that I picked out. But we'll see what happens. If all goes well, I'll probably get more and probably give any artists that I select music from a shout out as well. And also, I'm going to go ahead and leave a link in the description to the composer's FMA webpage, or their profile, whatever. But let's move on to today's story time. So, for today's story time, I have to ask, have you ever had one of those days where you wake up and you feel absolutely great, like nothing could possibly go wrong, and then, that one person shows up and just kind of ruins it for you? Well, let me tell you about a time when I was working at the Volkswagen factory in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Just I think it's been almost about a month or so. But anyway, one of my shifts at the Volkswagen factory, it was well, actually, let me kind of explain what I was doing at Volkswagen in the first place. So, this was a job that I took on to, help get an income, obviously, but it was only a temporary position, so it was like a month-long project, because Volkswagen had they had like a fire or something inside of the factory. It was really only a small fire. Only one part of the line got damaged in the metal finish area. So while that was being repaired, they needed extra help moving vehicles along past the area where, everything had been damaged while the old line was being repaired. And we basically had to manually push cars down a track that they had, and all of the car frames were on sort of like this dolly system, so that it was easy. They were easy to push as long as you worked as a team and whatnot, but still pretty heavy. But once you got the momentum, it was pretty easy. However, due to certain medical problems that I currently have, namely asthma, my main job was really just to attach fixtures to the frames to prepare them for the painting process later down the production line. Though it would help with, I would help with pushing the vehicles once in a while, at least to the best of my ability. As long as it was more than one, more than just me pushing the vehicles, it really wasn't that bad. And I think toward the end of the project, I actually got strong enough to where I almost could just push them by myself. I just had to get the momentum going, really. But my main job was just attaching fixtures to like the doors to keep them in place while they would later go into getting painted and getting all of those other finishing coats, so that the door frames and stuff don't get paint stuck in between them where there shouldn't be any paint. So I would do it to the best of my ability, especially towards the end of the shift when I knew everybody else was probably starting to run out of steam, so mainly to help them out, as well as, cracking occasional jokes and providing silly banter to keep everyone's spirits up, because, I don't know, surprisingly enough, you would think that there'd be, like, no-nonsense type of work, which, yeah, you gotta be careful, obviously, because you could very easily break your hand or some other part of your body, or just flat out chop something off if you're not careful. But fortunately, my job was simple enough that I didn't really have to worry about losing any part of my body, provided I didn't put my hand in the way of something like the vehicle on the cart, which for some reason one person did. They they decided they wanted to try to stop the vehicle from the front by placing their hand right along the track, and they ended up breaking their hand. I'm not sure what part of their hand. I didn't actually see it happen, but I heard that was something that had happened in a shift that wasn't, in a different shift. It was on a different shift. Anywho, but yeah, a lot of my coworkers were aware of my asthma and my blood pressure issues, so they were actually very attentive. Like, they would actually watch for my face turning red or any sort of sign of fatigue and stuff, and then they would just tell me to go sit down or something. Or at the very least to refrain from pushing the vehicles and just stick to applying fixtures. That is an important detail down the line, I assure you. Yeah, so, and I'll be honest, I did like doing that. I did enjoy that job, and working with the people that I was stuck with. They were all really nice people, very goofy. They all had very playful personalities, and not even a full shift with them, and I was already comfortable enough to make silly noises and whatever it was that would get them, chuckling like idiots. But yeah, and not only that, but they liked having me around because of how silly I was, and keeping everybody entertained while they're doing, the same tedious task over and over again. And that actually felt really good. I don't think I've ever had a job where I actually enjoyed being around the people I worked with as much as I did there. But yeah, so almost toward the end of the project, which was about a month long, I was getting used to I was actually getting used to it. I could feel myself getting a little stronger. I'd lost some weight. And, getting paid about $18 an hour to basically do one thing over and over again is a pretty sweet deal if you ask me. Even though, I'd be like tired and a little sore from doing the same thing over and over because I did have to reach up a lot. So, yeah, I had some muscle strain and probably a little back pain too, but for $18 an hour, it still wasn't so bad. Just soak in some Epsom salt and you're good. I did want to be there permanently, but unfortunately, I still wasn't quite fit enough to pass their physical. However, there was one day, and only one day, where I actually had a less than stellar experience. And it started out fairly good. It was a pretty good day. I woke up in a good mood, I went to work in a good mood. Nothing could possibly go wrong, until it did. Now, I make it sound like it was a catastrophe, but it really wasn't. In hindsight, it was really more of an annoyance. However, I would be lying if I said at the time it didn't really get me hot and bothered, because it definitely did. But anyway, I was partnered with one of my regular coworkers, and she was a very perky lady, very fun to be around, and she was one of those people that really got like the biggest kick out of my more hyperactive antics. And she was probably one of those people that had me comfortable enough that I was willing to sing out loud just to keep everybody entertained. And yeah, and don't ask me to sing. I'm not that good of a singer. I was just kind of doing it out of boredom. But yeah, it's not something I typically do. And that was the good, and that was all the good part of the day. But then about an hour after our lunch break, there were a few folks that had, well, I shouldn't say they had. It's more like they chose to come in early for the third shift. I was the second shift. And the reason they came in early, though, or why they were even asked to come in early, was because we were short-staffed due to the COVID surge that was going on in Chattanooga. And I guess a lot of the staff had gotten sick. Fun times. Anyway, one of these people, the other two, they aren't really as important, but there was one guy, he was a permanent worker, I think, and his only task while he was there was basically just to push the car, rotate it on a turntile, and then push it back on the main track where I would be waiting to put fixtures on it. And then after I put fixtures on it, we were supposed to push it down further so that, any welding or dent checks and all that could be done by the people ahead of me. But for some reason, and normally the people who are before me and pushing the car to me so that I can put my stuff on there, normally they push the car from the back. But for some reason, this guy liked to pull the cars forward from the front of the vehicle. And normally what I would do while it was being pushed, I would have like my 2 or 3 fixtures in my hands. And as they were pushing it forward, I would be putting the fixtures on and then meeting my partner who was working on the other side of the car at the trunk, where we would each apply a fixture to each side of the trunk hatch. But because this guy was pulling from the front, and there wasn't exactly a lot of walking space between my side of the track and where the old track was being repaired. So this guy would have to squeeze past the doors that I was behind putting fixtures on, because I had to open the doors in order to put the fixtures on. So I would be behind the door, and then he would try to squeeze past me in the door, and so every time he had to, walk back to start pushing the next car. Why he didn't just push from behind, I don't know. I guess that's just the way he liked to do it. He was a third shifter. He wasn't somebody that I would normally work with. So I wasn't used to, the way he was doing it. So basically, it got to a point where we were kind of getting in each other's way. I was trying to do my thing. He was trying to do his way, which it just wasn't compatible. And at some point, he kind of got annoyed with probably after about 10 passes or so, he was getting a little annoyed of bumping into me. And so he basically told me, hey, if you're not going to help push, you got either help push or get out of the way. So it seemed like his expectation was that I was supposed to help him push the vehicle first. But really, for some reason though, one detail I forgot. So not only was he pulling the vehicles forward, but he was pulling them past my station. He was pulling them beyond the point where, they were supposed to stop at me and my partner so we could apply our fixtures, and then we would push it forward to the next part. But for some reason, he wanted to basically skip over us and go straight to, the other guys who would just be checking for dents and scratches and stuff. I really don't know the thought process or why he would do it that way, but that's what he was doing. So he basically gave me the choice of getting out of the way or helping him push. And, either way, I was going to apply my fixtures, but I wasn't going to, and he said it in a tone that was, kind of rude. So it's been about a month almost, so it's kind of hard to recall exactly the way he said it, but he basically said it in the way where, you could tell he was annoyed, but he had, absolutely no patience in the tone of his voice. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't know. But anywho, it came off as rude to me, so then I was just like, well, you know what? My only job is to put on fixtures, so I guess I'll get out of the way. And so, and then he would proceed to keep pulling the vehicles, beyond the point where, past me and my partner. And my partner was a little confused too. But, yeah, this caused even more problems though, because now he was annoyed that I wasn't helping push at all. Even though, it wouldn't have mattered really if I had helped him push, because he was going way faster than I could keep up with anyway, especially with with how frequent he was pushing vehicles forward. I wouldn't have been able to keep up with that. So, I don't know, for some reason he seemed to kind of make me a sort of target after that point, and I can't state any reason that I feel may have been the issue, because he wouldn't say it directly to me after that. He wouldn't say a word. However, I wasn't, at this point, I wasn't even really in that foul of a mood. I was a little annoyed, but I wasn't, getting in his face about it. I just sort of okay, I'll get out of your way then. Simply choosing of one of the two options he gave me. And, I'll admit I was a little irritated, just not I wasn't in a bad mood yet. But knowing that I couldn't keep up with his pace, I chose to stand aside, and I just kind of became quiet. And I would just, as soon as the vehicle would stop, I would just, apply my fixtures, push it a little, however far I needed to push, which really wasn't that far. And yeah. And my partner noticed right away that my demeanor had changed, because before that I was really chipper and, singing and being, silly and all that, and just being entertaining, while also, helping apply fixtures and, occasionally helping her push the car when it was time for us to push it forward to the next station. But yeah, she kind of took notice of what was going on right away. She told me not to worry about it and to just, basically told me to focus on what I was already planning to do, apply more fixtures, which I did. But the other worker, as I said before, started complaining to my partner, not to me directly, but to my partner, that I wasn't pushing at all, and now saying that I should be helping and doing more to help my partner. However, my partner is familiar with my, conditions, and she understands that I can't constantly push the vehicles as often as some of the others may have preferred, but this guy hadn't worked with me before, so he probably just did not recognize that I was obviously not in good shape. That, and she kind of told him off. My partner told him off, basically explaining that, hey, pushing isn't exactly our responsibility as far as you're concerned. Our job isn't to help you push anything, and that we only really push forward as a courtesy, because what we were supposed to do was apply our fixtures, call out clear to the people in front of us, and then the big muscly guys would come up and pull the vehicle towards their station, do their thing, and then the next group would basically follow suit. Until it got to the lift area, and then it would just go to the next line. But yeah, she explained that I had some health problems that would have gotten worse if I was pushing the vehicles the way he wanted me to, which was like way too much. Like, nobody else was pushing it as fast or as far as he was, because they didn't need to. They weren't even supposed to. At least to my recollection. And she basically told him to lay off and to just kind of stop with the, stop being a dick, because he really was getting to I couldn't hear everything he was saying because he was kind of whispering it and trying to keep it a little hush-hush, kind of like, how high schoolers would when they're spreading rumors about someone, And, but there were little bits that I heard, and some of the ones that I can recall basically involved me being a temporary worker, which my partner was too. Yeah, he kind of made a few quips about us being temps, but it was mainly focused towards me, not her, because he didn't know that she was also a temp. He just assumed that it was just me being a temp because I wasn't working as hard, I guess. Yeah. See, and the thing is, though, is normally people talking smack to my face doesn't bother me, but when they're talking behind my back and I know they're saying something behind my back, that's the kind of thing that does bother me, is when I know they're talking shit. I don't know what it is they're saying, but I know they're talking shit. It makes me feel uncertain and uncomfortable. And I'm sure a lot of other people, kind of feel the same way. But again, my partner noticed that this was bothering me, even though I wasn't really saying anything myself, because I wasn't trying to create conflict. I was trying to avoid it. So I basically piped up completely at this point. My partner noticed that, and she even noticed, and you can tell when I'm upset, because I'll hide my face a little bit if I think my eyes are going to start tearing up or anything like that. Like, they don't even have to start tearing up. I just have to feel the sensation like they're about to tear up, and I'll just kind of keep turning my face away so nobody sees it. And I'll also start pacing a little bit. Somebody with anxiety probably would, because I happen to have anxiety, or at least a history of it. I've never been given an official diagnosis on what I have, but I'm sure I got something. I do get a little crazy sometimes, but I'm aware of this fact, so I try my best to avoid that conflict that would cause an anxiety attack, because I don't want to lose my job giving somebody a black eye or something like that, because I lose my temper. But anyway, so she asked the supervisor, she noticed that I was getting upset, so she asked the supervisor if I could switch places with somebody who was at the lift, or at a different position away from that guy, at least until I could calm down a little bit, because by this point I had already been working several hours already, and everybody was already getting a little tired. And so we sorry, I gotta catch my breath. So she asked my supervisor to if I could be moved somewhere else away from that other guy. So they ended up putting me by the lift to operate that for a while, and switching places with one of my other regular coworkers. And apparently, while I was down there, he was still complaining about me. My coworker wouldn't say specifically what he said about me, but she also assured me not to worry about it, and that he was just being a dick, and it's that I was fine, that nothing was wrong with what I was doing, and he was just being a pompous asshole and all that. And I'm inclined to agree, obviously. But yeah, they moved me to the lift for a while, to which point my task then was, once it got to the end of our line, I would help pull it to the little conveyor that would feed the vehicle over to the elevator lift, which would then lift it to another track that would take it to some other part of the plant to be worked on elsewhere, basically. Yeah, so basically my job was pull the car, or help pull the car, and then push a button. My job got even easier, basically. And I felt bad, because the lady I switched places with was actually, much older than me. Although she is in pretty good shape for her age as well. But she had my back too, because she's also aware of my health condition, and even she didn't have it as bad as me. I mean, good for her too, because she's almost twice my age, but she is in way better shape than I could ever hope to be in my current state. But yeah, she and my partner, both very strong women, and I gotta admire them for that. But before I lose track, I don't know, something, I mean, even though I had my coworkers reassuring me that everything was fine, and that I wasn't doing anything wrong. Deep down, I was still feeling a little upset because it wasn't just about somebody being a jerk. I felt inadequate. I felt like I should have been able to do more, and that I should have been maybe trying a little harder despite my conditions. And according to my partner, he had mentioned something about us being. He said, this is why I know that he came in 3 hours early for third shift, because he was basically toting the fact that, because he came in 3 hours early, he felt like it was owed to him for us to make his job easier by, doing half of his work, which is kind of crazy to me if you think about it, because he was complaining that I wasn't doing enough, but he didn't even want to do the one thing that he was assigned to do, which was actually easier than what I was doing in the first place. Because not only did I occasionally have to help push that vehicle, I was also applying fixtures, which as easy as it sounds, it does put a strain on your hands after a while, because you're basically pinching a bunch of springs together to apply these fixtures, because they're basically spring loaded. And so after a while, your hands start to tense up and get achy, and I was actually at a point where my hands would get numb, or at least my fingers would get tingly. And they had like this little massage device on site too that would, help ease that as well. So yeah, they have accommodations for things like that, which was nice. But he also mentioned something like, I guess he must have seen my shirt or something, because I didn't actually work for Volkswagen directly. I worked for a temp agency that also helps with staffing. And so seeing my shirt, I guess he just made the assumption that I was a temp, which was true. I was a temp, but so was my partner. And he was basically talking down about me being a temp worker, not knowing that she was a temp as well. And so she called him out on that shit, apparently, according to her. This is stuff that they actually did tell me. Like, she didn't go into too many specifics, just that, that she thought he was annoying because he seemed to be really full of it. So yeah, I'm still, like, even to this day, I still wonder exactly what it was that, made him target me specifically, other than the fact that I got in his way a couple of times. But I don't know. I feel like I don't really want to say what I think it might have been about, but let's just say there was definitely a hint of prejudice of some kind, because he really seemed to have it out for me, but not for my other coworker as much, at least not until, she decided to tell him off. And I think he only mentioned the temp thing because he felt that was the only thing that he and my partner didn't, might not have, had in common or something like that. I don't know how to say it, but I speculate that it may have been more racial than it was working class or work status. I mean, yeah, my lack of being able to do things at his pace might have been a bigger part of it, but yeah, even yeah, even after we switched, he still continued going on and on about me more than anybody else. So, yeah, it did make things a little awkward, which was also another reason why I just kind of piped up, because I didn't want to cause any further conflict than there might have already been in the first place. It just didn't seem worth it, especially when I was so close to the end of the project anyway, and even though I only had like 1 or 2 days left of working at said factory, you know, $18 times 8 hours, that's a lot of money. So I didn't want to miss out on even a single day of work just because of an altercation. I don't need that mess. I don't need that mess. However, yeah, just a reminder, I have no proof of this. This isn't a statement of fact. It's just speculation, because I don't have the details, so my mind's been kind of left to wander. And sadly, that's the kind of thing that also seems to create uncomfortable encounters like the one I just had. And in the end, I came out of it okay, but I still felt crappy about it, because even though my other coworkers had my back, it was still true that I wasn't as capable as the others, and being reminded of that kind of made me feel bad. And and as I think I mentioned before, I couldn't even pass the physical to become a permanent worker at the factory. And I wasn't even there at the factory to just make easy money, to just stand around. I was there to work. I just couldn't do it as well as everybody else. And I did my best. But then this guy just wanted to coast for the first 3 hours of his shift just because he showed up early, and then tried to make me and my partner work twice as hard when we had already been there for at least 4 or 5 hours before he showed up. Yeah, that's pretty shitty. And honestly, in hindsight, that's probably the part that bugs me the most, that it was that guy's blowhard attitude and that nasty sense of entitlement. So, moral of the story, respect your coworkers. The ones you treat with respect and kindness will treat you the same way, and they might even come to your rescue like my partner did for me. But if you treat them like they're lesser than you, you might not be treated so nicely. In short, don't be a bully, be nice, and, stand up for anybody you see may be struggling. They may return the favor. But that's it for today's story time. But if you want to, feel free to like this video, share it with your friends. And if you really, really like my video, please subscribe and ring that notification bell to keep you updated on future videos. And also feel free to leave any comments if you have ideas on what you'd like to see me draw next. This has been TabbyWesa. Thanks for watching.